The living room smelled like cinnamon and pine. I stood 6 feet from the fireplace, holding a glass of sparkling cider I hadn't sipped from in 20 minutes. My father sat in the leather armchair he'd owned since before I was born, one leg crossed over the other, his face carrying that particular shade of satisfaction that comes when a man believes he's solved a problem no one else understood. My sister Claire sat on the couch to his right, her hands folded in her lap like a penitent child, eyes red but dry now. The Christmas tree lights blinked in a rhythm that felt accusatory. He cleared his throat. Not the kind of clearing that precedes an apology, the kind that announces a decree. "I need you to understand something," he said, looking directly at me. "Family comes first. Always has, always will." I didn't move, didn't blink. The glass in my hand had gone warm. "The paperwork went through on the 18th, he continued. "The buyers were cash. It was clean, quick. Claire needed it, and you—" He paused, searching for the word. "You're stable. You'll figure it out." My house. The 3-bedroom craftsman I'd spent 4 years saving for. The place where I'd learned to retile a bathroom at 2 in the morning because I refused to hire help I couldn't afford. The house with the oak tree in the backyard that I'd already planned to hang a swing from someday. Gone. Sold. Without my signature. Without my knowledge. "How?" I said. The word came out flat, empty of inflection. My father shifted slightly. "You put me on the title when you had that medical scare. Remember? You said if anything happened, you wanted to make sure things were simple." I did remember. 3 years ago. A health issue that turned out to be nothing. A precaution that felt responsible at the time. "That was emergency authority," I said. "Not a license to liquidate my assets for Claire's gambling debt." "It wasn't gambling," Claire said quietly, her voice thinner than I'd ever heard it. "It was an investment opportunity that didn't—" $47,000 on cryptocurrency speculation is gambling, I said, still not raising my voice. Doing it on margin is insanity. Lying to 3 different lenders about your income is fraud. My father's hand came down on the armrest. Not quite a slam. A period at the end of a sentence. "That's enough. What's done is done. She's your sister. She made a mistake. We fix it. That's what family does." I looked at him then. Really looked. At the way his jaw was set, at the angle of his shoulders, at the complete absence of doubt in his eyes. He genuinely believed he'd made the right choice, the noble choice. He'd weighed his irresponsible daughter's crisis against his self-sufficient son's stability and decided the latter could bear the cost. I set the glass down on the side table. Didn't trust myself to keep holding it. "When do I need to be out?" I asked. "End of January," my father said. "They're letting you stay through the holidays. I made sure of that." How generous. Claire looked up at me, her expression somewhere between guilt and expectation. She wanted me to understand, to forgive, to play my role in the family narrative where I was the strong one, the dependable one, the one who could take the hit and keep moving. I walked out of that living room with my car keys in my hand and my entire nervous system vibrating at a frequency just below visible rage. I didn't slam the door, didn't offer a parting shot. I simply left. 3 days later, I was sitting across from a lawyer named Patricia Hendricks in an office that smelled like old books and printer toner. She was 60-something, with silver hair cut short and reading glasses that hung from a chain around her neck. "Legally," she said, reading through the documents I'd brought, "your father had the authority to execute the sale. The co-ownership structure you established gives him equal rights to dispose of the property." Even without notifying me? Notification isn't legally required between co-owners in this state, especially when the title doesn't specify restricted access. She looked up. Morally reprehensible? Absolutely. Actionable? That's more complicated. What would make it actionable? She leaned back in her chair, studying me. If you could prove the sale was executed under duress, fraudulent pretense, or that the proceeds were misappropriated for purposes outside the scope of reasonable co-owner expectations, you might have standing. But that's a long, expensive road with no guarantee. I nodded slowly. What about the buyers? Can they be held liable for participating in a questionable transaction? Only if they had knowledge of impropriety. If they executed standard due diligence and found clean title, they're protected. And if the sale were to fall through before closing for reasons unrelated to the buyer's financing? Patricia's eyes sharpened slightly. Then we're in different territory. What are you thinking? I'm thinking my father made a decision in a hurry without understanding all the variables. Variables like what? Like the fact that the house has an active mechanics lien filed against it as of this morning. She set the papers down. You filed a lien against your own property? Against work I performed on the property as a licensed contractor, yes. 6 months of renovation labor, materials, permits, all documented, all unpaid. I slid another folder across the desk. My contracting license, receipts, photos, time logs. Patricia opened the folder, flipped through it. Her expression didn't change, but her posture shifted. This is thorough. I believe in documentation. A mechanic's lien clouds the title. The buyer's title insurance won't clear it. The sale can't close until the lien is satisfied or removed. Exactly. And you're the lien holder, which means you control the release terms. Also correct. She looked at me for a long moment. What do you want? I want my father to understand that actions have consequences. I want Claire to face the reality that someone else's life isn't an emergency fund for her bad decisions. And I want my house back. The lien will force a closure delay. Your father will have to either pay you the claimed amount to release it or return the property to clear title status. Either way, the current deal dies. And if he tries to pay the lien from the sale proceeds he's already promised to Claire's creditors? Then he's in a cash flow crisis with multiple parties pressuring him simultaneously. Patricia closed the folder. You're putting him in a box. He put me on the street. Fair enough. She pulled out a legal pad. Let's talk about phase 2, because if you're doing this, you need to be 3 moves ahead. Over the next 2 weeks, I executed a plan with the precision of a surgical strike. The mechanic's lien hit the county records. The buyer's attorney contacted my father within 48 hours. I received a furious phone call from him on a Wednesday evening. What the hell did you do? His voice was raw, disbelieving. I filed a legal claim for unpaid work, I said. It's standard practice in construction. You're sabotaging your own sister's rescue. I'm claiming compensation I'm owed. If that inconveniences a sale I never authorized, that's incidental. This is extortion. No, Dad. Extortion is what Claire's creditors are doing to her. This is contract law. He hung up, called back 6 minutes later. What do you want? Money? I can pay you for the work, just release the lien. The lien amount is $52,000. Silence. That's insane, he finally said. The work wasn't worth that. 6 months of skilled labor, materials, permit expediting, market rate for a licensed contractor in this region. I have comparables. I don't have $52,000. The sale proceeds were already allocated. Then you have a problem. You're going to let your sister drown over this? You are going to let me go homeless over this. We're just negotiating who carries the weight. Another silence. Longer this time. What do you actually want? He asked, and for the first time, I heard something other than authority in his voice. I heard fear. I want the sale reversed. property returned to original title status, and I want Claire to sign a financial responsibility agreement drafted by my attorney that prevents her from using family assets as collateral for personal debt. Ever. She won't agree to that. Then the lien stays, the sale dies, and you explain to her creditors why the rescue plan fell apart. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line.
"You've become cruel," he said quietly.
"No," I replied. "I've become someone who doesn't set himself on fire to keep other people warm." The call ended. 4 days later, I received an email from Patricia. The buyers had withdrawn from the sale due to title complications. My father had petitioned to have the property returned to clear status. Claire had signed the financial responsibility agreement in front of a notary, her signature shaky but legally binding. On January 9th, I sat in the same living room where this had started. Same fireplace, same Christmas tree, now brown and shedding needles. My father sat in his chair, but his posture was different, smaller somehow. Claire wasn't there. She'd moved in with a friend across town, taking a second job to manage payment plans with her creditors. "The deed is back in your name," my father said. "Just yours. I've removed myself from the title." "Good." "You didn't have to do this," he said. "We could have worked something out."
"You didn't give me that option. You made a unilateral decision and expected me to absorb the consequences silently."
"I was trying to help your sister." "You are trying to solve your problem with my resources. There's a difference." He looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his face. Uncertainty. The realization that the sun he'd thought would always bend had instead learned to break the hand that pushed him. "Are we going to be able to fix this?" he asked. "Us, I mean." I stood up, picked up my coat from the back of the chair. "I don't know, Dad. You sold my house to pay for Claire's mistakes and told me it was because I was stable enough to handle it. Maybe I am, but stable doesn't mean infinite. And being family doesn't mean you get to strip me for parts whenever someone else crashes their life." I walked to the door, put my hand on the knob. "I'll see you around," I said, "but it won't be the same." I stepped out into the cold January air.
The house behind me felt smaller than it ever had.
The one waiting for me across town, the one I'd fought to keep, felt like the first place I'd ever actually owned. Not because my name was on the deed, but because I'd finally learned the difference between being reliable and being a resource, between being strong and being taken for granted. My father had taught me that family came first. I'd just taught him that I came first in mine.